Okay, welcome back. So we're going to be going through some student artwork, and we're starting today with our with the Dart 119 interior sketching class, and we're starting with Tito's work here. So I just went over this, and some of you saw it, but Tito, this is what I did on a layer overlay here. Is you're missing just some key light in here, and the thing that I noticed when I first looked at it was it actually has some really nice value spreads throughout here. But the intensity in this light source, and I accidentally painted those light rays in, they're not quite matching what that light should be. And then I still have an issue. I know we were battling this with your cannonballs, right? Your cannonballs don't feel like cannonballs here. It's like really white. It looks like I don't know, a piece of candy or something, and they feel too big to even go in the, I don't know, just be careful of that. So if I was throwing the light on like that to sort of emphasize a little bit more contrast. And I mentioned a little bit about light rays. Winter times you can have light rays inside a scene. Whenever you have light coming through an area that has a lot of dust, or like a jungle area that has a lot of pieces of stuff floating in the air and dust and fibers. Whenever you have trees with lights coming through, the light will sort of go through parts of the leaves, and it'll create a little bit of a ray effect. And also in a pirate ship. So the thing to be careful with is not to make these light rays going across here. Not to make them too dominant. Okay, what I mean by that is if you get back in here and you start to throw some really like heavy, bright light coming down, what will happen is that's going to take away from part of the effect of what's happening in here, because you'll get more contrast over there. So I wouldn't recommend that, but you can have a little bit of an indication. What it might be a good idea to do, what I would do is I'd get in there first, and I would punch up some of the highs that you have in here. Okay. And then I would come back, and after you get these punched up to a certain level that's looking a little bit nicer, that mimics your light source, then I would come in and then address what we talked about with that light bouncing back up here. A little bit of light's going to sort of sneak through here. Remember, you have a round surface here, so that light's going to, part of it's going to bounce back up here and then wrap around that pole a little bit. It's going to adhere to the surface there. Even with light coming in this way, look, you have no real, highlight mark hitting part of that wood and sort of streaking up and across. You're going to have a little bit of light, reflective light coming across part of that backside. So you need to get some of that addressed in there. And even, look, this is a cloth, right? So even as that light hits under part of your cloth here, light travels through. There could be a little bit of light traveling through some of that, getting to that edge right here, a little bit more coming from there, sort of peeking through. And you see how it really helps. I mean, look at here, your cloth is a lot lighter. You can have some highlights coming up here. Your cloth doesn't feel right, by the way, either. I just noticed that. You see that? Let me draw on top of it here and show you. It feels clumpy, lumpy. You know what I mean? Cloth hangs between two tension points, right? So if you have those two tension points, which are here and here, you have a tension point that's hanging down, and then that comes sort of straight. And then you get this complete, you get a complete lock in there, depending which one's higher. And then you get these folds. You should be able to see the light doing this. So imagine light hitting here, like wrapping over, coming under, then wrapping around this, coming under, and then wrapping down over that. See that? You could illustrate that by just having a couple rendered highlights hitting some of that surface. But the problem is you're not doing that in there. And instead, it feels a little clumpy and not sort of realistic, okay? And then the same thing also here with that light coming down. Remember we talked about lightening up. I mean, look, you have a little edge right there. Do you see that? Look, the light's going to come over here. And hold on a minute. Do I have cap locks on? No. You have that edge that wraps around there. See that? Little edge. It's like a little metal guy there, right? You're going to have light's going to come in, hit a little bit of that corner, and wrap around a little bit this side. You're still going to have a nice little highlight coming up in here. Light's going to hit down here, bounce back. So you're going to have some light coming here, sort of fading up a little bit up there. A little bit more light back in here. Look, you're even putting a shadow there. If that's the case, it might even be a little bit softer up in here where that light's sort of spreading across some of this and we see it coming out. How is that light hitting part of this wood texture? How does that wood texture fade a little bit of that light coming out as well? Okay. Now remember, if it's coming down here from a square, there's no reason why some of that light, look, the curve of this right here, do you see that? This is the same value as it is right here. But this is getting hit by the light directly. So, if this is a black metal, it might not be as reflective, but, it could be a little bit lighter with that sort of light hitting that surface and then reflecting back a little bit. It's metal, right? So you got to render it like a little bit of metal where it's got sort of a flat highlight, but then as it rounds over, it gets a little bit lighter, okay? Here, there's a drop of shadow because light's coming in. So if we were to come up here and take one of your darker values, and punch in a little bit of that shadow underneath that overhang right there, see that? You're going to have a nice little shadow in there coming through there, and then right after that shadow, and that shadow is going to help to anchor it down, right? Same thing under that guy. Then you can come back in here, and then that's going to be a little bit lighter. You're going to have a little bit more light hitting upon that edge right there, then have a little bit of a gradient sort of coming across here. See that? And then look, this is on the outside, right? So that means you could even get in here too. You have that lip. So you could get that lip rendered in here. So if I press down a little bit more and try to get a little bit of that lip receding back, that's getting hit by highlights. So you have all that golden little area in there, these little nooks and crannies and little details that you can get in here. Then you have this lip that's exposed right here. Heck, at that point, just come over here. Look, I'm going to take this separate layer, transform it, flip it over, make it a little skinnier, and put it right on that little edge right there. Drop the opacity down, blend it into the scene a little bit more. You see that? You have a little lip of metal there. It's going to catch that light coming through. Okay, so you have to adjust that, because if I start, gosh, you could even take part of that highlight. Hold on, let me get it like this. I wish, what they need in Maya, in Photoshop, is they need how in Maya you can center the pivot again? You should be able to center the pivot on a selection. They can't do that. Like if I turn it this way, and then once I hit transform again, it goes around the whole piece. It puts it back to a 90-degree radius, versus it should remember that and stick with Maya does that. It sticks with the radius of the angle. So if you turn the object a little bit, you have that option, right? They need that in Photoshop a little bit, because then I have to turn the piece horizontal and then hit transform again in order to get a good transformation. What I was going to do is make this a little bit thicker, distort some of this, and bring that across and see what that would look like as like a little highlight coming across part of your wood right there, and then just sort of drop it down. Use your layers in your benefit. I could get that in there and then duplicate that guy real quick, and then since it's all on another layer, I can come back in and take a bunch of this off. Look, that highlight fits sort of perfect right in there. So I'm getting some of that wood to pop out. So you have lots of little areas here. You have this little cusp in here. You got this part of the cannon. Remember, just to draw on this again, go back to red, right? Look at what your light is doing. Your light is coming down. Oops. The light is coming down in this angle. And after it hits right here, boom, part of that light is bouncing this way, right? Part of it's going to be bouncing back in here. Okay, part of this light's going to it's going to bounce up right through here, come up right into there. Okay, and then even the light that hits here and even part of the floor, some of that's also going to bounce back up in this direction. So with that in mind, you're going to be able to have, all kinds of nice little secondary, reflective lights up in here. I'm just throwing it in there real quick. That's way too bright. But hold on. Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to do that. Up in there. A little bit up in here on some edge, little dots on the edge of the rope. This value is almost the same there. You can have a little bit more gradient coming in there. So you have all that to play with, right? And remember the intensity of how that light is spreading across what it's hitting. That right there, dude, does not feel like a sphere. It feels like a marshmallow. Right? That does not look like a rendered sphere with a highlight and a core shadow. That needs to be fixed. Okay? So you got to get in there and get some of that stuff going on, because if we take it all, what we just did, it's a huge jump to get into that point. Okay? All right, cool. All right, thank you, sir. This one, I think it's working a lot nicer. You could still punch. If I grab that value, bring up look at the color picker there, you're still at a 5. See that? Now, maybe it looked, if I go to levels, let me take off the lock real quick. If I go into levels and just part of that value set, maybe it was a little lighter on your monitor like that. Could that have been it?
No, I think
No?
it did pretty dark.
Okay, well, you still have the ability. You've done a nice read in values going across here, right? You can punch this up a little bit more and get more of a focal point right in there, okay? And that Canon just still doesn't look right, dude. I'm going to pick on you for that Canon. It still looks like it looks like it shoots confetti or something. T-shirts, yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like a heavy Canon's had weight. Remember, I even nailed you on this. That doesn't go through the center of the Canon. So it's like the Canon's resting on top of that. There's no center mass to hold the Canon together. Come on, that's a design thing. You have a. Are you following with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you told me to.
No.
It's resting, so that's what I did.
So what's problem is that we're working on a design, right? And now we're having to come back here, and let's just go to. So if it's, look at the weight to that. Look at the wood, the wheels, right? I mean, and if you get something, look at that. Look at how heavy that thing feels. Even like this, I mean, okay, if it's resting on the top, so you need to look at your reference. See how that, like what I was saying is that if it's weighted like that, the pin goes through the middle like this, right?
Yeah.
You need to have that feels like a freaking cannon. Look at how heavy it is. That feels like if that dropped on my foot would be smashed forever. Okay? And when I look at your Canon, it feels like I'm going to put confetti in it and shoot it out. So it doesn't quite have that feel. That's a Canon from your head. And I could tell it is. That's not a Canon from reference. But remember we talked about that your artwork is only as good as your reference. And you need to get some of that in there. Okay? Other than that, besides me picking on that, I think the lighting works pretty good. I'm just curious what would happen if part of me wants to just come in here like this. I want to hit this like really light. Just sort of punch that up a little bit. It would help if you don't paint in gray. Sorry, I didn't pay any attention. Let me go to a solid white there. And then I could dye it down if I go too bright. So there, I punched up a little bit of that candle. Like that, and now I'm going to come over here, take a little fuzzy brush, and then come in here and just sort of lightly, I'll do this at like a 1, hit a little bit of like a close ring, like that, and then go to an outer ring. See what that intensity does a little bit? It helps spread, and even if I hit it a little bit more and then get it even a little further out, see that light feels a lot more, it looks totally different on my monitor, by the way, than it does on our screen. That's just the lack of transferring through the HDMI, but you'll see it on the monitor when I render it out, okay, from this demo. It feels, that light is matching a little bit more of what's happening in here. And I still think you could probably come in here as well and darken just a little bit, not too much, but like I look back here and that value just, it's like all gray. It's like, why wouldn't it be a little bit dark here and light? Candles, even though they're small, light sources, they have a nice spread that comes across, and you can still have part of that spread coming back in this direction. Okay? All right, but to me, going from that, adding that little bit of light in there, it's like I noticed on the screen up here, it's a little harder to see on the projector, but on my Cintiq, it looks pretty good. Even if I drop the opacity down just a little bit, Gives me more of a feel of what's in that area right there. Okay? All right, cool. Thank you, sir. All right, let's see who's next. And let's jump back over here. And we have antique store. Okay, very cool. All right, Katie. Is that about what it looks like on your screen? I'm going to adjust the monitor as we're talking really quick because it's actually a little darker on my screen. So I'm going to adjust it. I think I have to do this for every picture, unfortunately. When I look at the brightness here, I'm going to bring it down because that's a little bit more closer to what it looks like on my monitor. And then let me adjust the contrast. Also, the contrast is a little richer. That's what it looks like a little bit more on mine. Is that about right? Yeah, that feels a little bit better on the monitor up there. So anyway, I think this looks really nice. Hold on. I think the drawing looks really great. I like the design. You know, we spent a lot of time talking about some of the design that was happening here. Just one or two things that I noticed offhand. Be careful. Let me put a layer up on here so I can draw on the top of it. Okay. So be careful with some of your line weight. What I mean by that is when I first looked down at this, you have some really strong lines happening. Hold on. There we go. You have some really strong line weight in here, back in here, right? Those lines are getting to be really, really dark. Really lighten that down. Look, that's all the way in the back of the room. In fact, that object's in front of it, right? So you have this cross between like a little bit of a line cleanup and detail, and then it's still a little rough in there. So that's fine. It can work for you. But like, you know, this line, look at that line weight in there. It's pretty solid and it's pretty heavy. I just would dull that down because you want to get the value to read in part of your piece here so we can see all the props that are in there, right? And you did a lot of really nice designing. I mean, I really like the fact having that window in there so we can get the artificial light coming in. However, though, I think we could definitely punch it up. Just doing a quick pass on top of it. One of the things I might recommend would be, what's your background? That's for there. Hold on, let me put this up above. Got to take the lock off. Oh, it's not a double click, it's from up here. Why isn't that locked? Oh, what did I open this file as? Was it PDF or was it PSD? Okay. Oh, there it goes. I hit the key. Maybe I hit the key next to it. There. So I got that off. One thing I might do is your whites of the paper are going to kill the white highlights of what's happening in there. So I would select just sort of an offshoot. It could be even a little bit warm or just a cool gray, and just fill part of that paper. Okay, so now we have like something else. So it's a layer, not a bad thing, it's just a layer thing. So I don't know where that is now in there, right? So what I would recommend is get a light gray down behind all this. Because see now, I didn't know how your layers were working and I'm diving into it in the middle of a quick lecture, right? Does that make sense though? Because if you get the light gray to come down, in fact, let me just see if I can't do this just separate. So let's hit Command and Z real quick. I'll come up here. Just take a minute here. What I'm going to do is hit Select All. Okay. And let me minimize it for just a second here. I see. We had that. I'm sort of zoomed into it. So I'm just wondering, not for presentation, let me subtract from this real quick here. Let's go Alt. So the reason why I want to do this is, and let me just fill it now, edit, fill, there we go. And then what I can do is put this on multiply really fast. So it goes through like that, okay? Now the white of your paper isn't competing with the white highlights in the room. To me, that's going to have a huge impact, okay? So now I'll put another layer up on top of this, deselect. So now as I get in here, you know, I can think about punching up. Give me a second here. Let me do this. Command all. So here's a cool little thing if you didn't know this. If you want to paint on something, you don't want to mess with your layers. So see all the layers she has right now? What I can do is if I were to say Command all, selects all, right, Shift Control copy, and then Control paste. What it did is it just moved everything up. Oops. So what I just did is I compressed everything onto one layer real quick. See how I did that? It's Command all, and then Shift Control copy, and then Command paste. And it'll take all the layers and then merge them into one and put them up above your other working layers, which is an easy way to make some adjustments sometimes. So now that I have that there, I can sort of bring that down here so you can have that gray on there. It makes it a little bit easier so I can see where layers are. Now I can come back and let's go in there. I think what I would recommend, the reason why I wanted to do that is I wanted to take this and I wanted to push up a little bit more of the values inside your piece. So just by punching it up just a little bit more to about there, you see what's happening? And then if I come in with a little bit more white, it's going to get some of the values in that light. Because part of this beautiful window that you have here, part of that's getting lost. So now that I have that done, let me come over here. Let's go to about right here. And now I want to see what would happen if I get in here. And hold on, I have a different brush. There. Now I can get a little bit more light coming through. I can punch up some of this window. And when you punch up this window as well, come in, don't forget to put, you know, a darker value, not pure black, but like a 70 across for those bars of that window. Does that make sense? So now I can get in here and I could push a little bit more of this light coming through. Okay? So I want to get this value to pop up, especially as it hits part of the floor right in here. Some of that light's going to come through here. It's going to hit a little bit on the back right there. Okay? You're going to have some highlights on these objects here that are going to be noticeable. So I want to see if I can't come in here, get some little highlights on here. Up in here, you're going to have a little bit of that chair getting hit a little bit more. Parts of this little edge right in here. Parts of that. And some of that lights also, I'm going to have some little bit more highlights back in here on some of these edges. Okay, I'm just doing them very quickly. Even part of that table. And look, even if that light comes down, you got to determine exactly, even if it's hitting here on the floor, even some of this is going to be a lot lighter, and you're going to have a little bit more of a spread coming across with that light as it comes in here. This area back in here is going to lighten up. So you could take a fuzzy brush and just sort of punch some of this. Ooh, that's way too bright. Sorry, I didn't realize what opacity I was at. There, knock it like that. Now as I do that, I also want to come in here. It's funny because I'm looking at this is still off. It's my screen's a lot lighter than it is. It's a lot darker up there still. So what I was going to suggest is by coming in here and just having a little gradients. It's a little darker on that wall, and then the gradient travels this way because light's coming in here and bouncing, right? So like behind that couch right here, you're not going to have too much light hitting under that little area. You're going to get a little gradient there. We can push a little gradient coming up the side of that wall a little bit more. See what I'm getting at here? A little bit back in there. Even up here on top of the ceiling, I can have a little bit of a gradient coming in here. You'll see the demo. I'm sorry, the projector it's always such a pain to get it to match completely, but it gives you a little bit better idea of what I'm getting at here. Okay. And I meant to paint on another layer, and I accidentally changed layers too. So I would do that. I went a little too bright there with that light ray. Don't go quite that bright, but I just want to set up part of the difference with that light coming through here in part of this room. And then in here we have the light on, right? Can you guys tell that light's on? Not really, see? You can really push that up a couple more steps in your value range. So if that light ends up being, hold on, let's grab that same value here. And if I get in there and you really get this guy pretty hot, put a nice little specular on one side of there, now it starts to make sense. Then you're going to get that spread of the light coming off. You're actually going to see part of that ray coming off of that lamp, and then it'll fade out. Okay? And so if you drop right down from there, boom, you should have some really hot, these are right under that light source here, so you can get this whole little region right in here is going to have nice little highlights on it. Do you follow? And then just punching that up, get some of that done. So it feels like you're, again, watch that line, like I see what's happening in here, but you got to look at that line down there. Erase that and get the line of the props over that, because you have all those draw-through lines, and once you get those done, I mean, they're okay for the perspective. They could just be lighter. And then get the props to be on top, and then come back in here and just push up part of that, the value of that light coming up there, make it a little bit more intense, okay? There, and it's going to start to work and read. I mean, just looking at that, going from there to there, it makes a huge difference in the way the piece is being presented. Okay? Cool. All right, thank you. Nice work. It's a beautiful drawing and great idea. You really problem solved it nicely. You went through all the steps. You have this nice sort of 3-point perspective, curving shot. It's a nice isometric view being banked like that. There's a lot of information provided in there, and I think it would work really well on a production for solidifying, part of that production pipeline of providing information for an interior. It's really nice. Okay, what do you guys think? Yeah, it's great stuff. It's an outstanding. It's a good portfolio piece. Okay, nicely done. All right, and let's see who's next here. 1 second. So we did that, and then we're over to Aaron. Are you ready, Aaron? Ready as you'll ever be? Okay. So, hold on, I got to adjust the projector. The projector's... I thought it was yours.
Oh, no, it wasn't me.
Yours is the one that's all black, right, Tony?
I think so.
No, I'm just kidding. Picture... No, let's go back. It's more, I think it's a brightness issue. That's about more of what it looks like on my screen, right? Okay, so what I would recommend, so I have this as one layer here. So what I like the room, the drawing of the room feels nice, right? Oh, sorry, the monitor thing is slow. So you guys can see that, but you can't see it on mine, all right? So the drawing's wonderful, the design's nice. We need a little bit more bounce light, and the light coming through the window right now almost feels like spider webby. You know what I mean? Yeah, it feels, it doesn't, it sort of looks like light was sprayed out of a hairspray bottle or something. You know what I mean? It feels like it's sticky. Does anyone else get that feel? Right? Light rays are sort of crisp highlights, and you know what it is? I know what it is. And I will bet money to say that you rendered those light rays with a round brush like that. Am I right? I'm right, right? You want to know why I know that? Because I've done it before, many years ago, when I was a student. If you use the wrong brush, it's going to give you a certain feel. And a round brush, I would probably say wasn't as fuzzy as that brush, but you probably used a round hard brush. And by using that, it doesn't really make a defined edge. And one of the things that's really nice about some of these different painting brushes that are out there that you trade with people or get is this, is it leaves a texture, but see, I could build up a gradient very quickly. See that? Coming across. And then I'm doing this right now at opacity 30. If I put it on like a 10 and I fade it in there, it really changes the way the light feels. You see that? Okay, and something I forgot to do. Let me Command Z. Luckily, I put 120 steps in here for Command Z. So now I'm going to come back over this. I just wanted to show you the layer that he has everything. It's on one layer there, right? So I keep that out of the recording screen to give you a little bit more room. So the problem that's killing you is that, and technically it looks like you're going for parallel light. Right? Okay. So hold that thought for a minute. And here's the problem, is that if we have parallel light that's coming through that window right now, you have, because the light source is so far away, right? Okay, why is that not working? Let's try that again. Back on brush. So here's the problem. See that being that line there? Sorry. That line there? This one is now going this way. See that? It's not parallel anymore. You've lost part of the parallel look in there. So, let me see if I can go over this really quickly and see what I can come up with, okay? So what I would recommend is, and the reason I knew it was that brush, Aaron, is because I can see the strokes in the brush right there. Do you see that? Where you're lightly going on top of it. And the problem is that when you're doing light, it's like a little bit of both. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can just, let me grab this. Let me see if I can sort of, what brush I have. Let me see if I can go over this a little bit and flatten it down very lightly. And then I'll paint on top of it. Now, what you're hitting down here is fine. That's starting to work. It's just that it's getting too much like melted cheese coming through the window, if that makes sense, right? So what you want to do is with that light source that's coming through there, okay? This is what I would do, is that when the light hits that window, it's just going to look like a pretty, let me just do one window real quick, okay? Okay, so you have that right there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here, hit this with, let me see what grade, we're about at like a 10 or 20 there. So I'm just going to come in here and just sort of hit this one pass. Let me go down to about a 30 and see what it looks like. A little bit brighter, like that. And then I put a little bit of light hitting across there, maybe a little bit there. So that way it makes it look like it's light hitting part of a window, okay? So the light is the brightest when it hits the window. Then if you want, if you after you do that, you could come in and then you could give the feel that there's like light rays come and then they fade like that. It's just a little bit. They actually hit a little bit of the corner and create a little bit of fuzziness, and then they sort of fade off. So after that, to give the effect that light is coming through, you can take a fuzzy brush and very lightly just sort of hit this whole area and then come down in a couple big strokes. See that? And by coming down in a couple big strokes, it gives you that feel that light's coming into the room now. Okay, do you sense that a little bit? What you were doing, and the way I know this is because way back in the day, when I was first getting into digital painting, it was like 1999, I remember like a lot of people didn't know too much about brushes in Photoshop, and I remember I had like 4 brushes I got from this guy I was working with, Chuck Voldmer, really nice guy, and I remember one of the brushes was this little round brush, and it was like so hard to render with it, and like everything had put a round, crisp edge onto everything, and it made my drawing look very soft, and sometimes it would make it look a little muddy, and that's how I knew you're using that sort of that brush. So once you get that light coming in there, and then if you want to even, what's great about a soft brush like this is you can even just put a little bit of a haze off a little bit of, parts of the window. Like maybe there's a little bit of a haze here, a little bit of haze there. Now you leave it. Now what's important is the light hitting the objects. Okay, so yeah, the light hit the window, and we did that on that separate layer. We have a little bit of a light haze, and I'm putting all this in separate layers to show you, right? Now it's getting the light to really be pronounced as it's hitting, and when I do that, I'm going to jump up to more of a hard edge brush. Okay, I don't want to be using a soft brush in some of this, right? So that light's coming down, and bam, it's hitting like part of this mattress. Now, the intensity of that light hitting a particular object, it's the sensitivity of the object's texture and what it's made out of is going to dictate how the light works, right? But let's just say, just for generalized speaking, that light's coming in here and it's hitting this edge pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, hit part of that edge in there. It's hitting part of this edge a little bit brighter. Okay, going in here, maybe there's a little bit of a gradient sort of going across. And your sheets look flat, right? You're going to have a dedicated highlight coming right up here on the edge of that sheet and sort of wrapping over. It's going to hit a little bit right there. You're going to have a little bit of a highlight coming in over here. Look, this is folding downward right there, right? So you might have a little bit of a highlight that sort of comes in here, wraps around this way a little bit, sort of fades over. Might have a little bit more of a highlight in there. See what I'm getting at here? I'm trying to pop little edges. You're going to have a little bit more, some light coming in here. Some of that light just fading off very lightly. Okay, let's go to like a 1. So I like to just lightly try to build up where that light is connecting to. All right. And then once I get this, I'm just trying to do this quickly so we can get going because we have to get to this area back in here. So once that light's coming in here, then we have all this information back here. So some of that light's going to reflect up here. That's going to be a little bit lighter. This can be a little bit lighter. That's going to be right here. What am I at now? Let's go here and throw a little bit of a light source coming up there a teeny bit more. It's going to hit part of that edge and fade off here. Some of this floor, that value right here looks very similar as part of the value back here. Okay, so I know as that light comes across and hits some of these wood beams, it's going to spread a little bit like this. It's going to fade off a little. And it's, especially I have this little piece right here. I'm going to have some light, comes across a little bit of that wood. Everything to exaggerate what is happening with this light coming in through here. Now, it's funny, I'm going to darken it. This is still much darker up here on the monitor than it is on the Cintiq because let me show you what it looks like right now on the monitor. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. My bad. Right now on the monitor, this is what it really looks like. It's about that dark. Okay. I'm showing you that in the video, though. You'll be able to see the difference. So, looking at this barrel, you have a little bit of a light here, but then look, you go back here, there's no shadows coming in here. So not only is there, we've been doing a little bit of a light adjustment. Here, I'm going to put another layer up on the top. Let's go to darks. And I'm going to grab something, one of your darker values, like right in here. Okay. And look behind that barrel right there. Oh my gosh, the back of that barrel coming through here. There's going to, it's going to be a lot darker, sort of blending through here. Heck, we could even... I feel like I'm not getting, where's my pure? Hold on a second. I'm getting a weird gray. I'm almost on pure black. I needed to make sure I'm not on the wrong, didn't put anything wrong. There it goes. Just had to get a little bit darker, I think. Some dark values that can really start to come out of this and spread across part of this. Look, even that ring, right? You have light coming from the top. This way it's going to bounce back in this room. You could punch up some of these values back in here a little bit more. Okay? Even here, look at the wall. The wall is the same value from there to there. Right? No way, Jose, right? You're going to have, it's going to be a little bit darker here. It's going to have a little bit of like a dark area back there where the barrels are overlapping part of that. Even up here on the very top, there's going to be a gradient coming. Because it's going to be a little bit darker here, and then it's going to lightly sort of fade down a little bit. Now I start to get more of that feel of what the room was sort of meant to be. So let's just quickly, what I like to do from doing all these is just look at where we sort of were, right? That's where we were. And it's okay. It just felt like this is like coming to like string cheese, melted cheese or something, right? So look, I quickly painted over that with gray. Just identified one window. See how the light's more of a haze now? The light's a little bit more of a haze. Added in some little highlights around the room and then punched up a little bit more of the darks. And I could easily add some more darks back in here as well to get this whole thing to read. And then I start to create a lot better mood inside the piece. Okay? Cool. All right. Excellent. I didn't think about it, but I could save these for you guys if you want and give them back to you. Okay, so I just saved it. The other two people, I deleted yours without saving it. Sorry. Okay, next. So you gave me two, right? Oh, no. Yeah, what's this one here? Is that the same one?
Someone that you saved.
Oh, duh. I'm sorry. For some reason, some people gave me PSD, some people gave me PDF, so I was just trying to make sure. All right, Beverly, let's take a look at what you have. You gave me PDF or this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's too hard to remember who's given what. They what?
The grays came out with
They did? So I'm going to lighten up the projector real quick because it's a little bit lighter on my screen. On my screen, oh, that's bright. Let's go the other way. Let me go back to contrast. It's a little bit more, am I going darker or lighter? No, that's darker. It's a little bit more like that because the fronts are a little bit more grayed out. This is the problem. We're always going to have to do this on the projector. Yeah, it's a little bit more gray. That's what it looks a little bit more like on my monitor. Does that look about right to you?
Yeah, but
Okay. I think it looks really good. I think you did a really good job with it. I think it's working pretty well. Just taking a look at it. The only thing I think you'd be ready to do is, well, first of all, let's talk about the light. I think this is really nice in here. You have that light spread coming up there. It's very soft. It fades off very well. It's a really nice transition from being down in here and getting up to here. And I love those little speckles in there. I think that was really important to do that. One of the things I think you're ready to do, and you handled this very nicely up here. I think this is very well rendered. I think you're ready to get in here. The line weight is killing you against that wall. You see it?
Yeah.
It flattens part of the render. So I think you're at a stage, you have the master, I don't, where you could get in there and you can start lightening part of that line that's in there, right? And sort of really, allow the values to read over. And I think with this light coming up here too, some of it could bounce back down, and you're going to have a hard time right now seeing some of that reflective light bouncing back in there, that secondary light, because the black line is so dominant.
yeah.
So if you come back in and erase some of that black line in here and really allow that, you're getting a nice spread from here. Do you guys feel that? Do you like that softness in there? And can you see the little magic sparkles? The little pixie dust, Maybe that's a, huh?
Fireflies.
Yeah, a little firefly. I was thinking it was like a little incinerator for fairies. No, I'm just kidding. They get trapped in that thing, and it's the villains, to take the Tinkerbell fairy team and incinerate them. No, I'm just kidding. And then you end up with all these little sparkles. No, but I know, just teasing. It's my little imagination going off into a tangency, right? But then this right here, here's my thing with that, right? Having that electrical is like, do I need it? It doesn't really do anything. All it does is pull my eye over here, and I look at it, and I'm like, okay. It's like, all right. Well, that's a minor part of the story. I would leave that. I wouldn't even care. It's up to you. You could even connect those two if you want. To me, this is the golden piece of the whole drawing right in here, and the light coming through here. And I think once you drop some of that, look at that line. I mean, that's pretty thick in there, right? I mean, look at that edge in there. Once you get that line weight down, and then you allow some of this to read, I mean, that is a round cylinder-shaped object that's extruding out from the surface. And once you allow that light to come up here and properly bounce. And another thing you could do is you could even try coming in here and painting on top of it with another layer. Because with the layer on top of the line, you might be able to get some cool little gradients or reflections sort of, come across here and see if I can just get a cool little highlight coming off of that. And then maybe that, just sort of rolls off part of the edge from the light bouncing down. This looks just a little, I know that light's coming through there, but it doesn't quite fade nicely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get that nice fade in there. And even that, once I get in here, it feels so bright to me. Then I need to come down here and knock it down a little bit more, a little bit softer, And I think once if you get in here and you start painting a little bit and you're painting over that line, get some of this value set in here to go over some of this. I mean, maybe you don't even need that line going over the middle. You might maybe just make it gray, just get a really nice specular highlight or two, right? Because now if you come in here and you come on this side and you get one of these little, little specular guys just sort of coming up a little bit, sort of reflecting off of that. Maybe that's all you really need there. You don't even need part of this other. I could just come in here and start to paint some of that line out and just get rid of it, right? That's why, when I tell you guys that your line can flatten part of your piece, that's why in the intermediate digital paint class, what we're doing is we're talking a lot about shape and painting with shape. So we're not having this battle with the line. So I'm basically trying to get in here and paint out part of your line. And I think it starts to work a lot better. Just what's right in there, just over a couple minutes. And then look at that. To me, that looks a lot nicer. And if I go to and just go like from on, look at the difference. Yeah. It's like, you're locked in the prism of line forever. And then you come here and it's like, and you get to breathe a little bit, right? You see that? You're like, you're locked. Oh, you're free. Locked, free. So it's just, imagine if you did that up in here too a little bit. And, this is a really potent light source that's coming from here. And you could get, you could even, part of me wants to even take the white that you have there and just create a little bit. They did this in Alien really nicely, is they got light up and they had like a little bit of, that's way too bright. I'm like, yes, paint light here. But get a light sort of, you can get a light haze and a little bit of an area coming from part of that light source up in there, And that light haze comes across. And heck, remember that coming, if you draw a line from here, come up the wall, it's going to hit somewhere about in here, so a little bit in here too. So you get that little haze, and it's sort of, I don't know, not too much, because that's why I put on another layer so I can turn it down a little bit and go back and forth, because I don't want it to pull away from your initial light source. I think that works really nice like that in here. Actually, now I'm second guessing that, because I notice when I turn on that light, it dulls the values down, and I like those values anchoring part of what's in the back there. So I might leave that, but definitely I would start to paint over some of that line work, Okay? And look, that light's going to come up. If you're getting a light pretty bright like that, that's going to bounce back. Look, you have that whole edge right there. That whole edge, you're going to come in here. Heck, you could just, like, take another layer right now. Switch to this brush. Let's get a nice straight little. Then dull it down a little bit. Get some nice little highlights going right across that little beam there, right? It is a surface there that's sitting up. I hate that eraser. On that edge, right? And you're going to be able to see part of that edge sort of come through there with a little bit of highlights on it. All right? So I would get in there and just fix those, fix those couple things. Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice work though. Looks great. It's a nice piece. Did a good job with it. It really has this cool sort of graphic, like TV feel to it too that I really like. I think they came out very nice. Okay. My pleasure. Okay. All right. Let's go to next. Who's next here? So that was your other PDF. And then whose was this one? Dart 109.
I think that's the same.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. I'm just going across the line here because some of them don't have. So I need to make sure. Anto, right? All right, Anto. Let's see what you have here. That looks about equal to what it is on my monitor. Okay. I think it looks really good. I like the light coming in here. You could maybe, on my monitor it's a little duller. It's a little bit brighter up there. Okay. It's actually, on my monitor, it's a little tighter in here. It's not as fuzzy. But what I was going to suggest was making it just maybe a teeny bit fuzzier, where you have that light. You take that soft brush and maybe you have just a little bit of this sort of, not like that, not that bright, but just punching up the windows a little like this. And if you punch that up, then you got to come in here and then you got to erase that beam is way in the foreground, so it's not going to have that light on it like that. So I just punched up the light a little bit, and you know what? Looking up here, it doesn't look the same as it does here on my monitor. So you'll see the video on the monitor. But one thing I noticed is that here you're getting these soft little, like, swatchy things. You know what I mean? That's wood, and wood has a certain feel to it when it gets hit with light, especially wood planking. It gets hit along an edge, and then sort of just make sure you get, you know, you can come in there. I think you still have room to get some little highlights, maybe sort of going across some of the edge, little edge pieces in there. Sorry. Nothing's worse than when you hit a hotkey and you thought you had your brush and it's not your brush. It's still like on eraser, and you're painting and you're like, why isn't it painting? Right? So, like you could get in here and have some really nice little highlights coming along these little edges here. I actually have to get even tighter in there on every one of these because it's getting hit with that nice light sort of streaking through. Even you could have a little edge like that. I just think you could find a way to maybe punch a little bit of a highlight or two. I like that highlight you put up there. It looks good on that cart. You did a good job on that part of that pole up there. The light coming through. And then even that light's pretty intense coming this way. So as you get over here, you can also get a nice little fade coming into part of that. And I think it's pretty tight. You did a really good job with it. Everything's pretty locked up the way I would. I might just punch a little bit more highlights on some of this. Maybe over here, a little bit of something along that edge, or we have that lip there, right? The barrel. Maybe that catches a little bit more light than does as it rounds through part of that. It just gives it a little bit more shape and form by adding that in there, you know. And I think you could still come in here and see how you're darkening part of this. I think you'd be in a good place to maybe come back in and you could still punch up a little bit of the values back behind that light source. Because that wall is going to be a little bit darker, especially from here. And if you want to, even if you want to grab a brush that does like a really nice, where's one of my texture brushes like that? And you get something that's sort of zero. So I'm just throwing a little bit of a dark texture in the back there. You know. Even a little bit along the wall, let's say, maybe it's a little grainy type of thing. It helps pop a little bit more of that light coming through, you know. Yeah. I noticed too, be careful, when light hits down from here, you're going to have that sort of square, right? And I did notice this when I first took a look at it, that you had this sort of line. You see that line coming in right there? That's matching the line of the ray. And in perspective, that light's going to come down. Remember how we got to draw a dotted line down here? We got to find the wall, right? Then we come over. So when you draw that line, we find that actual square that's coming through there. So part of that square might be like right here to here, let's say. I'm sorry, I meant to go across like this. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. So just make sure, because see, you're getting that angle line that's in there. That light ray, these rays, if you see it, that little faintness connects to these edges. Let me grab my ruler. It connects to here, and then parallel, right? That one's now connecting to that edge, right? Then the other one on the other side. So if we draw back to your vanishing point, that's pretty much how part of this is going to be. And it would be a little bit more like that light in that particular Hold on. Erase, erase, erase. Yeah. So just make sure you get that in, and because some of this in here, you're getting that, see that line? And we don't want that in there. Okay? That's it. The little minor adjustments in there. Other than that, I think it's a nice piece. I think you did good. There's a nice mood happening in there. But just to give you an idea, I know you're looking at it. This is what it looks like on my screen right now. Oh, wait, not that. This one. On my screen, it looks more like this. So that's why I'm pushing up that haze. But now do you see this line getting more identified in there? Yeah, that's what you have to watch, because that's going counteractive to what that light's actually doing when it's hitting that surface in there. Okay? Good stuff. My pleasure. All right, let me close out of there. And let me close that one too. Let's go back here. And let's see, and then we're here. Big A. Hell no. Anthony.
Sorry.
Well, don't be sorry.
Let me say a couple of stuff that I'm working on right now. But
It's that I think the room's nice. There's one or two things. See, I didn't get to see this as a drawing though.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Progress part.
So there's a couple things I would suggest to do. First, let me add those in here really quick. I think from a drawing standpoint, if you had you need, let me get my drawing little pen in here, to emphasize that there's something behind those hanging pipes. So what I'm going to do is come back in here and just drop in like a little line like this. Why is it not drawing? Hold on. No, am I really? I hit press like 4 times. Okay, you're right. Now I got to go back to the eraser and go back to the eraser I would use. Sorry, I'm anal that way. Brush. There we go. So now that we have that in there, what I would do is watch what happens here when I come back and just draw a line going thick to thin for part of that ceiling, right? Is it, and even if it's, is
I
it,
want the ceiling to look like it's apart, so it's basically blowing up. So would that?
but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
They have those, but they still have like a support that holds it together.
A truss or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little metal. So maybe in between this on the outside, you just have that indentation that there's like a light metal truss like that, right? But now by going over it like this, look at what it does for the perspective. It's going to flatten. It creates, something of linear background behind part of what you have there, and it helps anchor down part of that little feel of the roof. I don't know if you can see that happening as much, but just having those in there, it does something to bring it. Yeah, you can see a little bit more in mine. Now, as far as the light goes, okay, I think the light's pretty good. You were working with a blocky square brush,
Yeah, I was.
and I could see that. And Aaron, how do we see that? Because Aaron's like, how do you know which brush I was working with, right? Well, look, you can tell because he has the blocky square path in there. And there's 2 things that you need. Let me check something. Hold on. What am I doing right now? I'm zoning out. I'm having a fill meltdown. I'm trying to find my, my smudge. Oh, wait, what am I doing? That's under that. Huh?
I dropped this. See the you drop? A little more.
Oh, what am I? That's why I'm looking for smudge. Where's my smudge finger? And I don't have my tools in here, which sucks. But I have some good smudge brushes that can smudge that around.
I'm actually using it right now.
Do you? Yeah, I need to get them on this machine. I don't have them. But the one thing is, the problem with this light is I don't feel that spread. I don't feel the gradient pass on that. And it's really easy to fix. You have my brushes, right? You need this guy. You need that guy. He's your friend. He's so important for a light brush because he is going to give you that feel of like lights in there. And look, just if I hit this a couple times, like if I just go over this and look, here's the great part is that sort of hazy feel that comes in from here, right? And I'm only at, I was at 100%. I didn't realize I was that bright. Let me drop down to like 20. Seeing as I get part of that spread in there. See, that's what you need. Get that sort of spread that's lightly graded. And luckily, that'll start to blend some of that together. And then where that's coming in, you're going to have a little bit of haze from part of that wall, right? You might even have a little bit, not quite like that, a little bit of like a, it's like that, just a little bit of an edge haze coming through part of that, okay? And by the way, it looks a little different on my monitor, okay? Part of your edge, I guess that edge could retain, but when you get out here, you can start to get it really soft and allow some of that to just blend in a little bit, okay? Hold on, that's where I'm getting too bright. Yeah, let me erase some of that here with my trusty eraser. Actually, let me command undo that. My eraser is just too bright. I'm going to go to like a 0.5 right now. See if I can just lightly get in there and sort of try to erase some of that. And then instead of, when I go back to brush, instead of taking that white, it was too intense, I'm going to take like this local gray and see if I can fade that. I'm trying to dull down part of that edge there. Okay? And get this to fade through a little bit. All right, so once you get that, I want to break that line a little bit, not make it so hard edged. So it's sort of fading across. Okay, once you get that feel in here for that light jumping up a little bit more, all right, that light's going to bounce in here, and your line's too thick. It's competing against it, like what was happening on Beverly. Look at how thick that line is right there. In fact, if I go over here and if I start painting on top of it really quickly, it's going to really start to like give it a little bit more like relief, you know. Let's grab something about there. That still feels pretty intense. So let me go brush. Let me go about 30 or 40 here. Try to flatten some of that line down. Yeah, that line just feels so intense right now. So you got to get that. And then with that light coming through here, I've also noticed some of these, right? A little closer, a little brighter, right? Some of these could be a little bit brighter, and then these can be a little bit more secondary. And here's one thing, is that shadow right here, Tony?
There should be a shadow as well.
Well, it flattens this because the wall is so light and that's so dark. The value of this should be more like, try to knock it down a little bit more. It's just too dark. And if you want to have a little bit of a, it looks different on the monitor than it does on here, but I'm trying to blend that in a little bit more, but I don't have your line right. Is because that was just so strong, those values in there. You got to knock them down just a little bit. They're too dark. Okay? All right. So once you get that in and get that to fade in a little bit, and then watch here, some of your values here, look at the highlights. It's almost the same there. There it's a little darker, right? So that's okay. But, you know, as it rounds through some of this, look, you have like the same overall highlight. Looks like you just hit it with a brush. Just went like a one straight line. You know what I mean? You know, this might be a little bit more intense here, and then it might fade off as it bends. It might be a little bit more intense. And you just got to get in there and render. Right now it looks like you just took a marker and went light gray and drew a line all the way down it. And you don't want to get that feel, right? You want to get a little bit more. So it just needs a little bit more of that TLC in there. But even if I just take what we have on here, let me see. We put those lines in. So just taking this, and it looks a little bright on the monitor. It looks a little bit more on my screen like this. A little bit more soft. Okay? Compared, that's what it looks like. I'm just showing it to you. But here, you know, and even still, that's why I like working on opposite layers like that. As I come back and I look and I go, well, maybe I'll dull this down a little bit and fade it in, or just drop the opacity down just a little bit more and get it to blend into the piece. Okay? But that's all I got to do. Let's get that adjusted. Okay? All right. Thanks. All right. What time is it? How are we doing on time? what do we have to like 220, so we're still pretty good. I can get going through some of these. So we have Charmaine. And then whose is this one here? Oh, that's Quinn's. Okay, let's get jump into Charmaine's here. All right. All right, Charmaine. What are your thoughts? Say something. We know you're here. I'll eat my Twix bar.
I got too much into thinking.
I got too much into thinking. Yeah.
I got too into like the line drawing and then
Well, I think what's going on is it feels a little blown out. It feels a little bright, the highlight in there. If I were to bring up the color picker, so I have light coming in here, and then if I come over here to here, back there, see it's about the same. That's way against the wall, right? Even if light was coming down here, then if I grab that highlight there, look at where it is on the color picker. Then if I grab that highlight, well, it's a little darker there. But this, and then some of this feels identical to what's, back in here. You just gotta watch this whole area. It just feels washed out, too bright. I think you need to go in there. Now, I don't get the feeling that, what I call that rendered feeling where you went in there and assigned local values to an object and then added the light. It feels more like maybe you're rushing out of time and you just threw grays in there with some darks and then just threw white going across, right? And you got to get in there and sort of, like, for example, let me see if I can do this correctly in here. Let me see how I'm going to do this. Let me see if I can pull this on multiply without killing your line. Do it like this. So, for example, light's coming from that window, right? There's no value adjustment on that box. It's the same value. You see where I'm going with this, right? Come on, you have the back side of this box here. That back side of the box is going to be a little bit darker like that. If the box was a darker value, then maybe I just darken it like this and make it look like it's, but still that back side is going to be darker right there. You did the casket fine, but what about the sides of this? That's going to be a little bit darker. That's going to be darker in there. You can have more of a core shadow on here. That can be a little bit crisper underneath the skull. What about the side of part of the skull? So even when you get back in here, all that gets flattened by the line right there because the values are just too intense. So there could be there should be a shadow coming under part of this. That back wall should be a little bit darker. Maybe this drape is a darker value itself. Maybe it's like a dark blue. So you can make that drape sort of pop out by hitting it with a darker value like so. So this is, what we talk about. You have a beautiful line drawing here that looks like a really strong piece. It could fit into being in an animated series without a doubt. The values aren't quite there yet. You feel like you're at about a 70 or 60% level. What about, look at this, not to pick on you, the wall is all one color, right? Well, the stucco, usually I said the stucco, the mortar. Usually the mortar between the walls tends to be darker than the bricks pop out. If I go in there and start to darken this out, this is your little milk and cranny area of detail back in here. You have all this stuff that's like really nice supporting information. All right? You got to get in there and adjust those values accordingly. Push and pull. Right now there's no pushing and pulling. A lot of them are the same. Okay? Get that. You start to get in here a little bit. There's no core shadows on some of these guys. It's going to be darker back in here because it's a little bit further back under there. So once we start to get more of those values happening, even I notice with the light, I just want to come in here right now, just work from a smaller point of view like this. I just want to take this brush and just go across like the top of it like that to get part of that light in there. I want to see, have a better feel. That should be a little bit darker in here. Okay. And then in terms of highlights, when I'm looking up here, that is almost the same as that. So if I come back with my brush right now, oops, sort of push some of this back a little bit, pull this back a little bit into the composition, maybe darken a little bit of that wall back in there. Maybe there's a little bit more of a, I'm painting with a mouse, by the way, right now. Sometimes I just find it useful, don't ask why, just to like, the mouse like makes you commit and you're like, bam, it's there, right? But do you see what's happening to your piece already? What got canceled? I'd even dull that down a teeny bit. That highlight was the same, very close to that. Push that down. So you just need a little bit more of the adjustments of the value. You have such a nice piece here. Get it a little bit more attention to detail, okay? You got to get in there and render a little bit more of it. Oops. See, now my eye's starting to go more into here, but still it's still so like bright. I just want to come in here with like a 10. Hit that with a 10 gradient going across to get this to pop more. Does that make sense? Okay, if I just look at the difference from before, see how washed out it is? All right. Well, no, all I did was adjust the values a little bit. I'm trying to get, and I might have gone a little bit too darker back here. I'm just trying to get this to be more of the read. And you just have this battle. I mean, to be honest, I'm working backwards here. I wouldn't tell you to work like this. Well, this is what I would tell you to do to fix this. Okay? See, now I'm working backwards because I'm painting in the mid-tone of this. What I would do is this. I'd put in another layer here. I would fill it with that layer. Hold on, it's a little dark. I would lighten it up like this. Then I would paint in the effect of the light coming in. So you were sort of doing the opposite. We're painting the midtone, and now I have a better idea of what the midtone of the piece is. Now I can control the highlights, okay? Before in your piece you can't control the highlights because everything is what? Everything's the same highlight. See what I'm getting at here? So now if I come in here and I switch up, you can control, go by the midtones first. Now you get to control what part of your highlights are and how the light feels. So now I could come in here and sort of say, hey, light's going to come through here. It's going to be about intense like so. And maybe there is a little bit of that effect of light. Maybe if I have a little bit of something coming across, and if you want to get in that graphic feel, fine, but give me an edge to part of that light fading in here, right? There. I get a little bit more feeling of the light coming in. Now, if you want, to get in there, I can select part of this guy like so. And I can get some little highlights in there. I can, what if this outside is lighter and then the inside of that design is a little bit darker? See what I'm getting at? And at the same time, I want to put a layer on the top as well to get over some of your line drawing there. Because your line drawing is going to flatten a little bit, right? Okay, what happened here for a minute? I'm at brush, 100%. Oh. Well, that's freaking weird. Why is it doing that? That layer's on top. I'd hit, oh, you know, I keep hitting deselect, and that's why. The Camtasia's taking up a lot of memory. And it's not quite working the way I wanted it to. There it goes. So now I can control the light and the feel of how that light hits. See, I can have gradients. I can go dark here, and I can lightly press on the pen of the Cintiq and lighten up other edges. See how I'm controlling part of the gradients now? See how that's working a little bit more? Okay, it allows me to paint in the highlights and think about, oh, light's coming from there, right? I mean, the light's going to come over here. It's going to hit this. It's going to hit a couple edges and so on. I might have a little bit of connection there. I'm going to have a little bit of a highlight like right on this cusp right here of that light. That's going to sort of fade up a little bit. Just very lightly on the box. Back in here. Coats aren't too reflective either, but they, you know, going to see a little bit of a light difference. Hanger or two. See, I dictate and I control the way that the light's working. And now this area here, I feel like it got flattened a little bit. So now I can come back to like a 0.5. And I can see a little bit of what's happening in here. I can put something in here. Maybe part of this is getting hit with a little bit of light. Got a little bit of the sign. Maybe that's popping a little bit. I can get some little highlights on here. Wrapping over. So you got to get some of those other... See, that's where we look at the difference. Ah! It's like someone turned on a super bright LED light in the middle of the desert, right? And it's like super bright in here. Now I can start to, and even that's, part of me wants to go in there and lighten it up a little bit to about there. See the read difference now? I feel like the read is working a lot better. So if I take, let me see, let me take our light that's coming in there. Haven't even really, even on the light too, I was wondering, haven't even really hit that sort of fuzzy feel of just, let me go a little bit brighter. And then come back. And that looks different on the screen than it does on my monitor there. I like it sort of like that. But anyway, that, you know, if you take those off, it's just too bright. Okay? So I wouldn't try to paint it in. I would just completely grade over and come back and then paint in your whites and get it to pop up. I do it like that, okay? All right, cool. All right, give me a second. Let me stop the recorder. All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at Quinn's here. Okay. Just curious. I feel like if I darken it, is that what it's supposed to look like, Quinn?
Yeah, it's a little darker.
Yeah, because what were you paying on a Mac or PC? PC. Yeah, PCs are going to be a little bit darker. That to me feels a lot better like that. I think it looks really good. I think the light works pretty good. I think you could hit a little bit more hotness in terms of the light. What I mean by that is if I add another layer up here, I mean, look at this light right now. This is like a 40. See that? It's even lower. I mean, there it is. That's about a 40. Okay, 40, 50 range. Look at what if we come up here at about this. And I don't like, I try to avoid using pure white, guys, all the time because I think it can get really bright. But when you have fires and coals, you know, fires and coals can get pretty, you know, you can get in here. Let me see if I can do this with my, I'm going to sort of just paint a little bit in here. So you can get the effect of those coals like really piping hot in there. See that? By painting those in. It's a little bit, my screen is a little bit lighter, okay, but, excuse me, a little bit darker. So by getting those in there, then what I would do is, once you get that feel in there, then I'd come in here and then just get a little bit more light that's radiating from there. So just take a fuzzy brush, just come in here, and what I do first is maybe at about 20%, I'd pop around here, and then I'd go a little bit wider and sort of bring up the corners a little bit, like this. Because if you do it all like this, it's going to flatten the whole piece, right? Won't look right. So do it through the corners. Hit a corner sort of coming up like so. Come back up here, and maybe on this corner, you have a little bit of light coming through here that's sort of, you know, like that. Punching it up a little bit. And then when you get that light, heck, you could use that to your advantage where the light's a little lighter here. And then you have some of the light coming through here a little bit. Sort of spreading through a little. And then, hold on a minute, that came out really a lot darker than I wanted it to. Let me erase part of that pole. And then hit my eraser and just sort of blend some of that in very lightly up in there. Okay? I'd punch that up a little bit. Again, here, let me adjust it on the monitor because it's different than what my monitor is right now. And I don't want it to, you guys look like, what the hell is he talking about? That's going darker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more on my monitor, like about there. Okay? And let's go to brightness. Yeah, that's a little bit more what it looks like on my monitor. Okay? So it's a little richer. So then what I would do is just be careful. I would get some little fading specular highlights in there. You know, some nice little edge highlights. Because look, when I'm looking at here, it's like you have light, dark, right?
Yeah.
So this light, look at that fire in there, right? It's pretty intense. It's definitely this sort of Frankenstein underlight coming through. Here, let me go through and see if I can hit a couple areas. One thing I noticed is that this chain in this has to be dark. It can't be a gray. You remember what I just told Charmaine is don't paint in the midtones. Paint the local value of the object. I mean, that chain is a dark gray. Now come in and paint the highlight on there coming from that light source. You know, it'll look different. I mean, just right there, that already anchors down a little bit more, you know. And you can come in here, you can really get a little bit darker values. You can get some little shadows coming up from some of this. We can punch some of this. I mean, all this is in part of this area right in here, right? Getting hit by all this light. And look, maybe this wall is like a little bit darker in those little cross sections, right?
Like the grout or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a stone or a brick or something, right? Get that grout a little bit darker in there. And then we could fade a little bit of value across the top here, like so. And it does a little bit more with the work, and then I can get in here, paint a little bit highlights. I mean, even here you have the ability to get in here and just push a couple of values a little bit darker. Some of your highlights feel like, no offense, but they feel like this. Like you took a brush and you went, You went down the side of it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not getting the gradient feel. So, like, this is how I would redo this bottle. If I paint this out, That's your bottle, right? Then I would come in here, and to me, you'd have, so lights coming up here, and you sort of did it right here. Look, you're going to have light hit this like little edge here, and then hit like 7, and go a little smaller with the brush and get that real definitive sort of highlight in there like that. And then as that crisp line comes down, go back down to a 2, and then let the line breathe for a minute, and then fade it off like that. See that difference?
Yeah.
It fades, it creates a little bit more, lines break. All your highlights are like, they're like, look, I'm a highlight, and it goes all the way down the side, right? They're not hitting with one point and breaking. Even the same in here, I would like take part of this out. I didn't mean to go that dark, but. So you get that highlight now. A little bit more intense over there. And then you come over here, and then it sort of wraps itself around there. You see that? See, and it's harder to see on the monitor, but if you see it on mine, you'll see it when you look at this demo later. And then you come to here, and that light's bouncing around a little bit. There's a little bit of a highlight in here, and then it's sort of lightly fading off, washing through part of that. It gets the read a little bit better. That's like all blah, 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 like you spilled syrup on it, Get those reads to be a little bit more like, oh, there, and then it fades a little bit. And that's going to give you a little bit better feel, even with over here. We could come over and punch up a little bit more of the edge there. Get in there and punch up a little bit along part of the edge of that table. And if that's doing that, you can easily have a little shadow from there coming back. Okay. Pushing that down a little bit more, so then I can pull out a little bit more of the beam from the light coming bouncing back up. Same thing over here. A little bit of light hits across there and then sort of fades across. See what it's doing a little bit more?
Yeah.
Just these little attention, and I know light's coming up under there and it might hit under there, but heck, just if you want to, make the underneath, you can make it just go a little bit darker. Because see, it's darker in the back there, right? Then where the shelf gets hit, it's getting hit on the edge. Right now you have it all one value. This is here in the foreground. So, heck, I want to come in here and just be like, I just want to punch that up. Then come in and put a little bit of light on it. Okay. Look, when the light breathes across here, you did a good job getting part of that shadow in here, right? Maybe go every other piece darker, lighter. Hold on. I didn't realize, I didn't mean to go that dark. I wanted something a little bit lighter like this. Then I get that gradient. There's no real gradient up on that ceiling. Push it back a little bit more. Okay? So just see the difference?
Yeah.
There it's just sort of lots of whites out, and here now we've tightened down the values a little bit and get a little bit more punchiness over here, get a little bit more highlights over here, and just darkening a couple areas, and then painting the whites in, allowing that gradient to happen of light, right? Okay? Cool. Sure. What I'm going to do, I'm going to save these all in the folder, and then when we wrap up today, you guys can come grab them. The first two that I did, though, I didn't save yours. I'm sorry. You're like, damn it, Phil. All right, now Paul. Uh-oh. Drum roll.
Okay, wait.
That's not what you had?
Yeah.
That's all right. Hold on, let's adjust it. You're working on a Mac. Or you're a little bit more like that?
A little bit.
He's like, yeah. He's like, whatever makes it better. Right? Okay. How's that? Is that cool? Okay. So, the number one thing that's killing what's killing Paul's piece right now?
The shadow.
The shadows. They look like blood. Looks like someone poured liquid blood all over. The shadows are way too dark. The shadow of this guy here is going to be pretty much the same value as what that floor is right there, going across. Okay? It's way too bright. You're like, ah! We look at this, we don't even look at anything else. Okay? The other problem is that, give me a second. Let's see if I can work any quick magic on this. Oh, that's not bad. That'll work. Hold on. Uh-oh. I hit some button. Okay, brush. Blah, 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 blah. Go down. Get away. It's too dark. Let's go like this. There we go. Nice and soft. Aha, now it's working a little bit better. Okay. Now, okay, now you're at an easier place because now the values of the shadow look like they match up. To what part of the floor is. Does that make sense? I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little weird line in there. Let me pull that down. Okay. There. Now, it's easy peasy, Paul. Now it's just painting in the white highs. Okay. Put a layer up on the top. Highs, right? We come back up here. So I'm going to just do this really quick with that brush. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and let's go up to about a good 20 right there. You know, actually if we wanted to, so check this out. You could literally come in here and hit the top of every one. Here, what am I painting at? Oh, that's why I'm at 43. Let me go to about 70. So I'm going to pencil in every one of these guys real quick. So now you have a good value set in there, good mid-range set of values. Sorry, I'm doing this really quick. Trying to get it down in there. All right, so now that I have that in there, let's come in and put the magic. I was going to use that soft round. I love that soft round, right? But sometimes we don't need the soft round. Sometimes we could take a texture brush. Let's see what happens when we take this guy here. Ooh, look at that. A little bit of magic coming from there. See this? We get a little bit of this white sort of texture coming through here. See that, Paul? Looks like a little bit of dust floating in the ship. Okay? That just adds a lot for... And then I'm going to come back here. Now let's take this guy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a couple little areas. Like I'm going to come over here and hit a corner. I like corners a lot because I don't want to brighten it up too much. But see, getting a little bit of light through there. Get a little bit lighter in here. See? Uh-oh. I don't want that line in there. I just want the haze of the light sort of peeking through, right? You see it coming alive a little bit? Better. I'll track you down in the parking lot. Just kidding. There, like that, see? Arr. Now it feels like a pirate ship hull. Right? So look, see I'm getting a little bit of that haze in there. Now I'm going to come like really light at like a 1. I'm going to just throw a little bit of light across there. A little bit of light over there. Okay? And now it's time to come in and have fun with it and start throwing in some really nice, I'm going to put up here. I always do this on I'm going to call it speck for like little specular. I shouldn't say specular. It's more like little hot points of where the light's hitting. Now, this is the cheat that I love so much about animation and painting is, oops, I want those little spots to be where I want the eye to look, right? So if I come over here now, we're pretty good. We're still at that 10. I'm going to go down to like 20% here. So watch what happens when I come over here and I just tag the end of this little lock here. And I just hit that and I'm just like, bam. Spread that guy across there. Boom. Have a sort of an instant little focal point over here. I come across some of this wood. Now, it's hard. You got to decide bright side or light side. I'm thinking this facade is closer to that light. So I want to come in here and just see if I can hit some of this little edge. And get some light sort of fading through part of there. Look at that. I got this little fade off here. You guys aren't eating in this class, are you? Good. Because I could hear rappers. The only one allowed to eat is me because I'm a teacher, right? Are you? Like a 2-second, just swallow it down, right? Okay. So look, I'm getting in here. Getting some of this. I haven't addressed anything on the floor yet. I'm just see if I can do it really quick. Okay. So primary read up here, right? Boom. This secondary read, this shouldn't be as hot as the primary, right? Right. In fact, I could even get, you know how I did the corners up there, Paul? I can do the same effect down here where I could come in and I could punch a little corner a little bit more and make it a little hot right there. And I can come back in here a little bit as that light fades. And if I want to cheat a little, I can punch up a little bit of that edge. But what happens if I punch up all the edges? It's too bright. There's things in front of light like mass and rope and maybe people standing, couple little edges. It'll be a little bit more, secondary, whatnot. And then let me dive into this really quick. You have some really wonderful little areas in here. You got the little chain. You have some little specular highlights on it. That chain's going to be black. So that's one thing you got to do, like on Quinn's. You left the chain pretty empty right now. You need to get in here and paint that chain its local value. That chain is black metal. All right, blacksmith, black metal, right, at that time period. I like how the chain ends into the floor, by the way. All right, maybe you would raise a little bit of the casket, right? There, okay. So now you can see where the focal point is, right? The light's hitting that one particular area. And now it's just an issue of just coming back and you can just do some soft texture fades in here. I don't know if it was me. I think I painted over that wonderful knife you had in there, right? So let me come in here. Let me fix that real quick. You have this really nice prop in here, and I didn't mean to paint over the whole thing. There we go. And let me go down to like a 20 and get a little gradient coming up over that little map, right? Then we had that, should be a little bit darker here in the foreground still. Okay. So the funny thing is, Paul, is you provided me most of the answers already. Now it's just me getting in there and just making a couple little tweaks to things. I mean, just right now, I really like how that light's coming in here, bouncing around. I didn't finish the floor, though. Let me see if I can finish a little bit more in a couple little spots. You know, the whole part of what you guys are going for and working with tone and getting your light set up, especially for the industry, is based on contrast. That I want to make sure, and since I'm doing this on a separate layer, I can come in here and I can dull down some of these highlights if they get too bright. So some of them are can be just suggestive, just quick little highlights, but then I really want to come in here, make sure that that edge is getting punched up. Actually, I noticed I'm hitting it with a lighter gray and it's punching it down. I didn't mean to do that. I mean, that's key. One little guy up on there. Okay, one little guy there. Okay, all these little highlights, and then maybe even a little bit of breathe, spread, I meant to say, where if the light's hitting up here, maybe some of that light spreading across here. Oops. Maybe it's hitting part of that board right there, right? It's hitting right up on that edge. See, you're getting these little nooks and crannies in here to get that to pop out a little bit more, okay? Then you come back here and you have the barrel stuff. Now the barrel stuff, you have to drop down and get really soft in there. So you don't want to get the specular highlights to be, or the reflective or the bounce lighting to be too strong in there, okay? So you can do that by just sort of getting in there and trying to hand draw some of that just a little bit. And that's even a little too intense, but that's okay. I can dull that down in a minute. I'm trying to draw it freehand with a Cintiq that doesn't spin. See that value you have on the back right here? You should come back and let's throw a little bit of that darker value back here. Let it breathe up, not breed. Light doesn't breed. Going to let the value make love to the painting and breathe through the painting. I'm just kidding. All right. Okay, so now I want to dull it down just a little bit because it is further in the back. I don't want it to be too bright, but the light is sort of coming in that direction. Look at this turn right here. It's like all the same value almost, right? Light's coming up down below. It can be a little bit darker on the side.
I swear, it looks better when I was
That's all right. Well, we're going to adjust it and make it a little bit better now, right? Push a little bit of the values. This back wall, a little bit darker in here. Punch a little bit of that side there. And then when we do that, how we put that little white highlight, and we get a little bit of a highlight on that wood. Sort of coming through here, blending into part of the other piece of wood there. Coming across up in here a little. Okay, do you feel how the light's breathing? I said breathing, not breeding, right? Yeah. Look, even back here, it hits a little bit of that beam. It's very soft. It's going to distinguish that planal change. Those two are almost the same value there. You see that? Top one. This should be a little bit lighter. Welcome to the pushing and pulling of values, folks. Right in here. Okay. And then I even want to sort of come in here and still... Oh, that upper lip is going to be hit really nice right there. Okay? So, do you see, let me zoom out of it. That's where we are, right? And that's where we started. Okay, so we just have the shadows are too dark, so I painted over them. I knocked them down, right? Made them the same values as the floor. And then I knew by painting the highlights in there, it would wash it out a little bit more. So once I get a little bit of that light fuzz in there coming through, and I did that, remember I did that with a dust brush that I had. It's like this sort of rough, because it gives me that feel of dustiness. Or that, it gives me that spread, because look at what let me show you real quick. Look at what the dust brush, which one did I grab? Texture, I think it was that one, right here. See what it does? It's never going to hit the same amount of gradient in one place. So look, if I hit that right now with white, see? It's like spread out a little bit. And so by using that, I think that's the brush I used. But by using that, or was it that one? Hold on, stupid layer. No, it actually was this one I think I used. Because this actually paints dust really nice. Look at it full scale. See? It's even if you do it full. And what's really cool is you can sort of go like, sorry, I keep hitting Command Do. You just drag it in a couple spots and it creates that dusty little feel to something. Okay? All right. Okay, cool. How much time we have left? 20 minutes? Good. All right, let me save that for you, Paul. Save, replace, okay? Uh-oh. We didn't turn on the spec layer. There we go. Now let's save it. And okay. All right. You're welcome, sir. And we got that one. We got that one done. We got that one done. And who's next? Dane. And then someone gave me, these are Candace's. I have to rotate those. So I got Dane's. Okay, sorry guys, I don't mean to be brief. We're going to have to go through these a little faster, or else I end up not finishing. What's wrong?
If there's 5, we get 4 minutes. Right?
Yeah, we get like 4 minutes. All right, Dane. What are your thoughts, folks?
Why are you taking this class?
Why are you taking this class? There's always room for improvement in everybody. Dane has outstanding Photoshop skills, we know that. However, there's always, right, Dane, areas for drawing and designing and sketching and draftsmanship, and that's why Dane is in this class. Because there's always, no matter who you are, there's always something to improve on, you know. So, when I first looked at it, Dane, I mean, the focal point is great. Okay, I like what you're doing there. It works really nice in here. I do have a couple little battles to probably pick with you. One of them would be I don't really feel the light emitting from that circle area. And I have a concern about this center right here being, hold on, I'm using this big brush versus now I can use the pointer. So here's my concern. Is this the highlight and the light source, or is the light source coming from the sphere?
Well, there's a lot of light sources.
I know. See, because that's what you have a light source here, you have the light source here, you have the light.
Literally light sources everywhere.
Yeah.
There's probably about 6 of them.
So,
I knew it was going to be an issue.
yeah.
But,
So what we got to do is we really got to narrow it down and pick a key and get that to breathe. I think it's going to enhance the piece a little bit. So there's a couple values, a couple things I might see that I might recommend that we try to adjust, right? One of them is that I noticed my eye sort of goes to here, right? Because everything's pointing me to this focal point, but then my eye jumps right over here very quickly in the left and sort of in the right because you have these really bright, these highlights against these dark hanging elements right here. And actually the dark values inside here actually flatten it a little bit. And so what I was thinking was, let's just try a couple passes, a couple options of what you could do, right? So what if we take this, and let me go back to another brush here. What if I take this soft brush, and what if I want to knock these down a little bit here, okay? So if I knock these down really quick, and here's my thought is, what if part of the light source that's coming through this is generating from that sphere, okay? And if it is, coming back in here, now that would also mean I have to cheat a little bit and I have to knock this guy down a little bit if I can. See if I can get that in there. I want to knock him down a little bit. Okay, because then my thought is if I have this sort of cool haze, and you almost have to like just go. Maybe that's too bright. Let me try to get it in like this a little bit. If I have this haze coming off of this, and that is the light source, I feel like it might allow the piece to read a little bit more, and then there might be some other. See, the problem is I can't make out what is behind this. I don't know if that's a plate with like a map, you know what I mean?
That's supposed to be a planet. I didn't put,
Yeah.
I actually didn't finish this.
Okay.
It's like probably 80% done.
Okay. Yeah, I would just, because maybe that's what it is this feels like it flattens it, maybe because it, like here, that feels like a planet with light coming from underneath it, right? So what I was thinking about is by putting a little bit of haze on this, but then I was wondering if I erase it from the top and make it look like the light's coming, sort of a Frankenstein lighting from underneath. So if I do this, but then I need a hot point in there. And I'm thinking for a hot point, I'm just going to make it up really quick, is what would happen if I came in here and I had like under this, let's say like under this metal right here, if I had like a real distinctive part of this was like a hot point, and maybe part of this in here, and as it wraps around, maybe it gets a little bit smaller. And then, so it's giving me that feel of like light is illuminating upwards from here. And it also creates a little bit more contrast in a couple little spots that you have here, or little areas. Actually, you can even use this down here on the ground, which could be very cool. Oops. So the reason I was thinking about doing this was, hold on a minute. Let me put another layer underneath it really quick. And let me grab that. Oops, not that. That. I'm going to darken up this floor a little bit. And then if I come back up here, I was wanting to take this light source and see if I couldn't just sort of like get it to just sort of feel like it's humming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of just like, and it's on, and it's just sort of, now I can take part of that light and shoot it up the sphere a little bit, and I can put a nice like specular little highlight in there, right? And then you could wash that part of that highlight back up the side of it. Oop, too bright. Actually, it's not bad to have maybe just a bright, like, bam, Because, see, I like that feel, because now I can wrap part of that light. Wrapping around the sphere to enhance the shape, right? Here you got to be careful, that white light that goes all the way around that white line. Have it fade a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit brighter here, and then as it comes up, it sort of starts to fade off a little bit and diminish up there. So, hold on. Let me see if I put another. Uh-oh. I'm going to put a little bit darker value there, because then I was wondering, what if we came back here and we get just like a nice little, just going up here a little like that, and then just punch it, be like bam. Hold on, it's not wide enough. Do the texture. So I just want to emphasize the light is coming from underneath, right? And is underlighting it. So all I'm trying to do, let me merge those together, is readjust a little bit of the direction of the light. You know what I mean? Coming from sort. Does that make sense? Get a little bit more. You have this radial light just pouring out from under the floor here, sort of coming across. So I'm trying to get that feel like light is coming from underneath, and then it's like coming up. So like, have you ever noticed when a projector's on, sometimes if you look at a projector, it's casting light, but you can see the inside is really bright and white of that lens. If light's coming up this way, and then we emphasize everything on that sphere, and by putting these little highlights in it, by the way, it's a little bit darker on my piece. It's a little bit lighter up there. But now looking at what's in here, I have a lot more contrast building in part of that. And then I think this might allow you then to come in for your secondary reads and get some other cool little highlights. Like, so if we flatten down some of this, we'll flatten down some of this, come back in here. And now I can get some, if that Frankenstein lighting sort of coming underneath here, maybe I can get some other cool little highlights like right up in there. Let's see what that looks like. So if I come back here and I think that's about the same hotness. Same thing here. Just trying to get this to pop out a little bit more there, right? Heck, you could even, if that light's even super bright, you could even get some cool little gradients coming across here. Hold on a minute. Let me do it like this. You have these little tops of these little grade. One there. Oops. Hold on. I need to get closer. Bear with me for a minute. Let me get these selected. Because a lot of those little gradients are the same value on the top. Oh no, they're coming. Just kidding. And you were already doing it in there. They looked really nice. I just want to emphasize it maybe a little bit more. Let me get this other side here. No, it gets too light back there, that area's got to be darkened a teeny bit. But here, let me do this on another layer. And if I hit hide and hit, let's get that punchy white. There we go. So that light's coming across. You're going to have a couple of areas. Might be like, bam, like lights is hitting right in there. Light sort of coming across right here, and then it's going to fade off a little bit. A little bit of a highlights here, and then highlight sort of fades off as it gets back a little bit more, right? Get that gradient happening. So punch in those little highlights like so, and then come back with that soft brush, then just sort of like come back a little bit lighter and just fade it back and see if we can get that read to poof. So I'm just trying to, that's one thing I love about gradients, right? Is that they give you that feel of dark to light, and then it brings you in. It gets you attracted to want to get back here to some of these highs going up part of this, right? Actually, what if that looked like that light's on a little bit, and then part of it looked like it's shooting up a little bit too. Okay, so let me punch those a little more. All right, so basically when I first looked at it, my eyes were like, bam, right there, and then bam, up here, you know. And all I was trying to do is just think about if there's another way that we can get the light to maybe focal in one area. So it was just the thought of, I mean, all this detail and everything in here looks great. The design's awesome. You could also lower the line down a little bit. If you bring the line quality down, allow the values to read through it, I think that'll be key. But then by sort of coming up here, now I put more of the emphasis, and I know it's getting a little washed out, so I need to adjust. Maybe that's the one I need to adjust a little bit more. If I dull that guy down a little bit, okay, where I get a little bit more of a read. But now I feel like my focal point is more the sphere itself, the whole entire thing. And I think you were trying to tell me that maybe in a story point of view of like this whole sphere is important. And then maybe if you come down and think of that sphere as being lit itself, being the light source, you can then also still come in here. If I just take the mouse real quick and I just darken some of this area back in here a little bit, you know, but not that much. Just a little bit more. Heck, you can just fade this back. That doesn't even have to be importance right now. Just fade that back and keep our eye. I know that's cool, part of the story, but look, even hitting it with tone right now, it's so much lighter on my screen. Come over here real quick, Dana, look over on my screen. Than on the projector, because the projector is really pushing up part of the darks. See, I'm pushing this stuff down now. See, it's a lot different. Sorry, it's really, really bright up there. It's a lot lighter on my screen. I don't know if I can do this. Can you see the difference? Okay, it's a lot lighter, so you'll see that. Sorry, just hit the mic. You'll see that in the video. And then at the very end, check this out, dude. If you have to me, which would put like part of the icing on this cake, I have where's my cloud brush? Yeah, you come in here with like a cool cloud, and I can give you some of these, and you get this sort of, hold on, you can't do clouds with black unless you have, oops. That's not it. It's just the guy I want. So then if you come over here in one of these grates, and you get like a secondary sort of, you know, steam coming up. Actually, hold on. Hold on, I'm cheating. Let me show you. I have a steam brush I found. That actually works really cool, but you can do it large and then you dull it out. Look at this. That's what I love about some of these weird ass brushes. It has this weird like specular glow thing on it. Hold on, let me see if I have the brush for. I found these smoke brushes, and they're really neat. There's a lot you can do with them. There's some other cloud brushes, and nope, I don't have them here. But I have them at home, Dane, and I can save them and send them to you.
Save this too.
Yeah, I'll save that for you. Because then if what we've done is just added a little bit more. Let me see if they're in there. I'm passing them too fast. And light rays. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. So anyway, we're about out of time too, and I have a couple more to do. So getting in here, what I was going to do is put some steam. If you can imagine a little bit of steam coming out from right here, sort of pouring out, sort of it'd be like a secondary supplement to that. So anyway, let me save this right now. And I can hit save. There it goes. All right. And then I can give you that save file, okay? But to me, if I merge those together, I'm just like, look at the focal point difference, you know? And I know it's too dark up there, but on my monitor, it makes more sense. So anyway, cool. So I can keep going. I don't have to leave for another 15 minutes. If you have to go, whose work do I have left? Candace's? So I got 3 pieces from Candace, and then who else?
Oh, it's only 2.
Only 2? Which ones? I'll just open all 3 and we'll go into them really quick. So who has to leave right away? Anyone? Katie? I already did yours, so you can go if you have to go to a class. Okay? No, I totally get it. 90 degrees clockwise. Okay? So you know what you need on this? You need a base value to anchor it down. Like your 2, look at your darks. That dark, see that? It's like a gray. So watch really quick what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to put this on, and you could even do this in Photoshop. Actually, that is a really fantastic technique. I've done it before where I use markers or Prismacolor, and then I bring it into Photoshop. Watch it how quick you can sort of unify this piece and get a cool light source in there. So let me go to like a darker gray like this. Let me go to real quick. I'm going to jump up to a brush right here, and then let me just come over here and paint it like a 40 and just sort of say like, hey, you're in the foreground right here, right? And once I get some of these elements in here, see, this is going to unify some of these together. There you go. So you needed a little bit of that in there. You have a little bit too much. So light's coming from back there. Just by doing this, it's a great way to bring some of the values together underneath it on another layer. And you can see how quickly, look at how quickly your piece is sort of changing already. Because the values are holding it together a little bit more. You can even keep some of those highlights that you have in there, you know. Quickly go over this stuff. Then you can come in here and brush some dark side, light side. I'm just pushing your values, so you had a good base. It's just an issue of me coming back into it a little bit. And can you see what's happening already? If I get in here and I keep, so I have a like close to a black, I have like an 80% brush, but I have it at 40% opacity. So every time I go over it, it's darkening these layers, right? Very quickly, and it's really giving me that cool feel of, you know, what could be happening in your piece a little bit. And so just by doing this right now, I'm already changing that whole tonal piece. Look at that, the tone's starting to work there. Now you ready? You see the difference? You need those values to anchor down, because right now, if I bring up that color picker again, that value there, right about there, see how light it is? And then I come over here, way back here on the wall, and they're almost the same. That should be a lot darker. It's a lot further away from that light source. Okay? So hold on a minute. Image rotation.
Oh, the other one is just the same, or it's the same picture, but different lights.
This one?
Not this one.
This one. Maybe I accidentally grabbed, that's where it only got 2. Hold on a minute. Let me grab that one. So this one I missed. Image and image rotation. By the way, in case I forget to mention, I will be posting up your next assignment. Okay. I have a little bit more reference to put up, but I have most of it. You're going to be drawing and designing the interior of a treasured throne room. So there's going to be treasure, there's going to be a throne room, and I'm going to have some requirements that I want inside the location. You can do it on a more sci-fi, or you can take it back the other way. But imagine a throne room with lots of treasure around. There could be pillars, but I want the throne elevated up a little bit higher. We'll get to that in a minute, but I thought I'd mention that to you. And I'll put some reference up. So this is the same thing. It doesn't matter.
It's okay, you don't have to.
Yeah. No, I was just going to go under there. I was just going to throw in the same values I just did, almost in the same place. In fact, check it out. I could literally go in here and say select all, copy, and I could just go here and place the same values in, and it's doing the same thing. That's all you got to do is push those values. But look, I've noticed that you're sort of, you got to come in here and paint that. See, I think some of you guys are noticing a difference. You have to paint the white in. It doesn't work the other way. If you are painting from the mids in, and trying to get to the white, you don't have the same effect. You have to paint the highlights coming in and hitting an object. It is actually, I find it better to be a retraction process, meaning that you've painted the tone down. Now you got to think of it that you're retracting some of the tone to get the white in there. Basically, we're adding in the white highlights and getting the light to spread with gradients going across the piece. That will bring you to a better answer. Because even on here, there's a value question of the light. When we look at this intensity of light here, and then look at this light here, and actually that one's a little bit darker back there. But here it felt very similar to there, like right here to there. That wall should be a little bit darker. Light's casting in through here. That floor should light up quite a bit more. Okay? So that's what I would recommend. Yeah, in fact, what I was going to do is not only that, so you see the values I put there, the darks, I would just come over here, and then, here, let me just do it real quick, and I'll just fill it with a base value now, and then what I'm going to do is hit levels so it's really light, and then I can darken some of that. Hold on, that didn't come out the way I wanted it to. Let me take off that. I think that, oh, that's why, duh. That has to be up on top there. This has to be on multiply now as well, because I'm working backwards since I don't have a line. So now I can come into this base value here and go to levels. There it goes. Sorry, I'm having a lag because of the recorder. Yeah, and now that I have that right there, I would now come in and now paint the whites in. See the difference? It's adding them in and getting them to spread across is going to have a better read on that piece. Okay? All right, do you want me to save that, or you got it, right?
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, I didn't do as much on yours, and I apologize for that. I will do a better job of trying to maintain all your guys' work through this. Okay? Some of these, though, I already saw them, and they're looking really good. So Simeon, I noticed on yours when I took a look at it, you need that the white to come in more. You need, look, you have the white hitting here. You should have a nice specular highlight right on the top of that, right on the top here. That's what you're sort of missing on this. Yeah, does it really? Because, and then I was concerned is the darks. It's a little darker on the screen than on my computer, but they got really dark in here. And if you're going to have light bounce here, bounce back, you're going to have highlights up in here and stuff. So if I were to just, let me just do a quick little pass on that. If I grab your white that you have and just imagining, it's going to come in here and just imagining, boom, this guy's getting hit here pretty hard. And then that sort of fading off this way. You know what I mean? You can have some really nice, that's right under that light source, right?
I think I get so worried that it's going to blow everything out that I'm like, really.
Well, it's a good thing because you can blow it out like Charmaine did. I'm just kidding. No offense, Charmaine. But no, it's easy to put too much and then you kill it. So that's what's great about it if you do it from a tone standpoint where you're coming back in and now you're lightly building up. See? That light's going to come off here and part of this light's going to start to come in and wrap part of that corner. Even though it's a foreground element, we're going to have some cool little highlights bouncing back in and coming under some of this. You're going to have that edge in there being a little bit more pronounced. See that? All that light, in fact, even under here, This is going to come back. You're going to hit the front facade of this table edge here. And once you get in there and start getting some more of that in there, it'll really start. I mean, you can already see it starting to happen. One of the things that, oops, sorry, I just keep hitting the mic. One of the things that keeps happening over here, though, is that you don't have those defined, look, I mean, you have that spread of light coming across there. So if I just come in here really quick and start just getting some of that light defined a little bit more, and then I come in here and I'm like, bam, I start to hit some of this and get some more highlights in here, and then a little bit more high. You're just, and I know what you're doing. It's not a bad thing. You're just being very conservative with it, you know, because you don't want to punch too much. But you can get in here and really get some of this to pop a little bit more, you know. Oops. And then after you get some of those, yeah, you're just being really just conservative with it. And you get in here and you start to punch these guys a little bit more. And then boom, you could already see it start to work a little bit better. And then I even noticed, look down here on the tiles, come in here and feel the grout. Yeah, with a darker value set. Then once that grout's all filled in there, then you come back with this white and you're like, you know, oops. You're like, bam, and you put that across here. Bam, bam, and you pull out some of these little highlights coming through there on some of these tiles. Okay. Yeah, and once you get that in there and you get that floor, and that's what's going to pop all that, is getting all these little cobblestone tiles with little highlights on it, getting that light hitting over here, and then back over here as well. That's really going to start to create a lot of nice. But look behind here, see that? You can get, look at that soft little spread. You feel that light coming across? That's just the soft brush just going right across it, and it's really, I mean, heck, I would actually give this light that feel. Hold on, let me go to pure white because I know I was down about a 3 or 4. This is where you got to be careful with it. Punch that light bulb up like that. Bam! Now it's a light bulb, right? Or you could, if you want, you could put a specular highlight on it, on the curve of the light. And then you just sort of come in here now and just sort of get this fuzziness coming through here. And we just basically pushed up a little bit of the intensity of that light in the room. That's actually, I'm looking at the screen now. It looks different than my monitor. It's a little bright in there because I went pure white and I shouldn't have done that. So if I just erase a little bit of that in there, like so, that brings me back more to what I'm looking for. Okay? And look at that. You have all this. Take advantage. Look at all the detail you put in there. Look at all the highlights that are going to be going through here and right on there and up in this and, you know, coming up. This whole area is going to come alive back up in the front. Okay? All right. Okay. Looks good, though, Simeon. It's a great design. It's going to come together very nicely. Okay. And then this is, whose is this? David. He's not here? But he sent it to me. We'll save it for later. I think you did a good job. Just a little bit of adjustment in values. Take off the survival guy if it's totally out of perspective, Dave. Right? It's all survival guy going to the side and the perspective's going this way, right? This one says girls on it. Do you see that? So, but, and then his other battle too is to thin down the line. See how thick the line is around the gun? Thin down that line a little bit, get the darker values in here. Because right now, look at what's happening here. Look at that value right there. Look at that value. And then you come over here. I know it's a little bit darker, but, you know, it's like there should be a distance between these. It's like right here, that value is, you know, underneath that table. It's almost the same. So there's a little bit of a value adjustment that should happen in there. I would come in here, basically if I did like a super fill pass on this real quick, I would take that brush and just if I did this, even if I just came into the edges, I'm painting with the mouse right now. Even if I just darken some of this in here, darken what's in the back there, darken that value, that should be a lot darker. You can already see it working better, right? Darken some of this under here. little bit of the shadows. And then come in here and get some of that light to breathe a little bit more in there. And then get a little bit more specular highlights in here. Look at that, that light's right above. Dude, this thing's gonna be like, bam. Oops. Try that again. Yeah. There we go. Get some more highs in there, and it's gonna read a lot easier. Okay? Cool. All right, so that's David. Talk a little bit more on that, and just look at the, I painted on it, so I can't look at the difference. Okay? All right, let me save that for Dave real quick. And then, okay. And let me come down here. And whose is this? Oh, that's the one I just saved. Trevor. Yours is looking really nice. I already took a look at it, dude. Look at that. That's excellent, Trevor. With the line off, do you see how it's holding together? But I would still get in here. I think you could brighten up the side of that box and a little bit, some of the values in there with that guy. So it's funny. I don't know. You have a very certain style here that's really nice. It's an excellent piece, dude. It came out fantastic. The line quality looks great. I think it's just a matter of punching a little bit of the values, and I think there's a happy medium between the two. There you can land where you have a little bit more of the line in there. I like the value, but some of this needs to be rendered a little bit more. Do you see it falling apart a little bit on the left here? But that's just spending a little bit more time getting in here. It's almost if you could find a, hold on, let me do this. Select all, copy, come back here, and if I say edit and do paste in place, right? Paste special, paste in place, put this one on the top. Wait, take the lock off. Yeah, that one's on the top. Put this one up here, and if I lower the opacity down, like about there, you see that? The line still holds it together, but your values are coming out a little bit more. And let me see if I just...
There's more separation on the objects with the lines.
Yeah, I just wanted to darken it just a teeny bit. And then what I was going to do was come in with another layer then up above and sort of hit this white value and just sort of like, I mean, over here on the side of that box, you can go a little bit lighter on some of this where that light's coming in. Just very lightly. You know, even this can be punched up a little bit more. Even this edge of the cabinet might be just getting a little bit of reflective light on it. You have a little bit of the desk. So I'm just going to very lightly sort of punch up some of your highlights that are in here. Okay? To get it to pop a little bit more. But I think by merging the two together, it's a happy medium of not too much line, but enough to get it to sort of come together, right? Try that thing with the corners. Sometimes I get in there and just blur a little bit of the corners with the light coming through. And get a little bit of light coming out from that edge. Light also tends to come in at an angle and hit that little, you always see that on windows. It comes in and goes right through that little angle beam. And you just get a little bit of the light, not too much, right? And then I'm just going to come in here and, again, sort of darken this, lighten some of these edges. That's really nice on the floor right there. And I'm just curious if I come over and just sort of hit a little bit of... See, this would be another good example where you want dust in there, right?
Well, there is some, but this is not showing.
Yeah. Well, no, it looks like it is. It has that feel to it. I'm just curious if I come in here with this sort of like that. You see it happening a little bit more? Punching a little bit of this weird, dusty feel in there. And it's coming, it's a lot brighter up there than it is on my screen. Actually, let me take the eraser now and lightly go over some of this and knock it down a little bit. That's maybe a little too much, so I can drop it down a little like so. And all together, look, it's punching up a little bit more of the lights, right? But I think there it is on that one, and then, oops, that one I put on, what did I do to that one? Oh, 58% opacity to blend it in. So that one's just so strong with the line. Let's add a little bit more of light indication in there. I think especially, look back in here, look, you got all these values in here. You got little crevices in there that can go darker, that can get darker. Some of the books, some of the little areas in there, all this light, you have this ton of light coming in this circle. A lot of that's gonna, you look even back here on those beams, right? That ton of light's coming in here like a flashlight, and it's gonna lighten this stuff up. And then look here, you could have highlights going up there, up a little on that box. Some more highlights are gonna reflect up and hit some of the beams up here. So that's all I would do on that. I would just render out a little bit more. Heck, even thinking of that, I wanna come in here and just take that other, to see what happens if I hit this, make it a little bit brighter, get some more little highlights in here. Not that hot. I went too hot on that. I'm going to erase that in a minute. Just to get the value change on it, right? Come back to my eraser. Oops. Oh, don't want to erase on that because it's multiply, or it's opacity, and it's going to screw it all up. But that's a little bright up there, that one. But see how this is starting to pop a little bit more over here? You have tons of information and detail in there. You need to get in there and just get a little bit more of, you know, reflective light bouncing around, hitting some of these surfaces up. That's all. Just a little bit. Huh? Yeah, it's a great piece. I mean, it's like Indiana Jones' office upstairs. You know what I mean? It's very nicely done. It's a nice design, good draftsmanship, good balance in there. And once we get that light in there, just a little bit more, I just feel like you could just push it just a teeny bit from what, you know, we had that, and then, you know, looking at these two values, right? I sort of like it meeting in the middle where we see a little bit of line. This might be one of those images where you have the tone and you actually show the line itself, because I think there's a lot of quality in that, in part of that line, you know, too. So it's nicely done. Okay, excellent, Trevor. All right, cool. And let's quit Photoshop. I think that's everyone's, right? All right. Cool. Let me stop the recorder.